Hey everyone, welcome back to Learn with Psudo series. And in this one, we are going to dive into something super exciting, which is Selenium. We have started for Selenium. We have learned the Python basics, and now we are moving to Selenium. So, whether you are looking to automate your boring stuff or you are planning to build a full fledged framework, Selenium is your go to tool. So, let's get started. Right. So, what is Selenium? So Selenium is an open source automation tool used for web automation. It allows you to mimic user actions in a web browser, like clicking button or entering the text and navigating between the pages, just like we do in a normal human world. All right. Now, moving on to what generations we had. So we basically had 5 generations of Selenium till now. We'll explore on the generation how it got evolved, simplified the web testing, and adapted to more browser-based challenges. Okay. Now, the first generation we had in Selenium was Selenium Core, which was the first version and was developed in 2004. It was purely JavaScript based, and it used to inject command into the browsers. Okay. This worked on the same domain due to browser security restrictions, which we call as same origin policy. So while it was groundbreaking, it was also limited, making it hard to test on multi-domain apps or perform end-to-end testing on multiple domains. Okay, so we can only test on the same domain. Now moving on to the second generation, we had overcome the same origin limitation with Selenium RC or the remote control. It used a proxy server to interact with the browser, allowing cross-domain testing. Selenium RC also supported multiple languages like Java, Python, Ruby, which was a huge leap. But running a server and dealing with slow execution made things more complex here. Third generation, where we saw Selenium Webdriver. Okay, this was a real game changer there. With Selenium driver, it was starting with version 2, and this version eliminated the need for a server. Okay, it used a naive browser like ChromeDriver or a Gecko driver to control browser directly. This brought faster execution, better stability, and more reliable element interactions. Selenium 3 polished this further, becoming a gold standard in automation testing for almost a decade. Okay. So the main version that we saw here was Selenium 2 and 3. Then comes in Selenium 4. So in 2021, Selenium 4 was officially released with major architectural upgrades. It adapted the W3C WebDriver standard, making interactions more reliable across browser. Features like relative locators, Chrome Dev Tools integration, and revamped Selenium Grid made parallel and cloud testing easier. And from version 4.6 onwards, it introduced Selenium Manager, automating the painful task of managing browser drivers. So if you have used it earlier, you would know that we need to have web drivers for each of your browsers installed. But in Selenium 4.6 onwards, we had Selenium Manager, which used to take care of the browser drivers that we had to download. Now to the latest generation, where we have fifth generation of Selenium, which is Selenium 4.6 to 4.32 and continuing. So this is the latest generation which focuses on the modern challenges. Selenium Manager is now auto detecting all the browser versions, and it downloads the matching WebDriver automatically. So no more setting path or dealing with mismatches. Okay. It also has a capability for BD, that is bidirectional protocol. So testers can now listen to browser events and network requests directly. They can check the console log or the performance metrics as well. Now, with these advancements, it opens doors to advanced debugging and real-time automation tasks, making Selenium future-ready. All right. Now, moving on to the generations comparison, we had talked about the generation. What we are going to focus on is on the fifth generation and the fourth generation, which is still in use. But the third generation was widely used, where we saw the growth of Selenium was this era on the third generation of Selenium. All right. Moving on, why is Selenium so popular? So imagine you want to test your login feature across Chrome, Firefox, Edge, right? Selenium can do that with ease, just one line of code. You provide a browser and it handles or it tackles all the browsers based on your single code. Okay, you don't have to code for multiple browsers at multiple instances. Okay. This is also great for data scraping and automating repetitive tasks, and also for your regression testing as well. Why is it popular? Because it supports multiple programming languages and it works with different browsers and different operating system. And to add on, it has a very vast community and a very strong community with tons and tons of documentation and tons of code which is readily available online, which you can use for your reference for automating your activities or the mundane tasks that you are doing. Moving on. So Selenium suite has three different components. First is Selenium IDE. It's a browser-based extension for recording and for record and playback of your scripts. It is basically for beginners, and it is not very scalable. You can record and playback your script, but you cannot control the execution thoroughly. The second component that we have is the Webdriver, which is the core component, and we will be talking more on Webdrivers. Webdriver allows you to write code and control your browser. You can program how you are going to approach or how you are going to test your application. So all of those things are being controlled by your Selenium WebDriver. And the last one that we see here is Selenium Grid. So this is used for running multiple tests or multiple machines in parallel. So this is very useful when you have a large test environment where you are going to test multiple tests on multiple environments. So you can schedule your test in such a way that your test runs in parallel on multiple machines and in different environments. Moving on. So how does Selenium WebDriver work internally? We have talked about the history. We know from the generation 1, it was using JavaScript and it was injecting that into your browser to perform some actions. So till date, the core remains the same. So you write your script in any of the languages that you want to, and then your WebDriver API translates that code into a JSON format. That JSON format is then pushed into your browser driver, and then from there it is converted as a HTTP request that communicates with your browser. Now this browser gives a API call or a browser call to whatever action we are trying to perform there. Now based on whatever action we are performing, your browser engine, say you had ChromeDriver, so your ChromeDriver will perform that action and it will return you whatever was the result. Okay, so if that faced an exception will be thrown in your system. If that run well, there's no exception that you have. Okay, now moving on from here, we are going to talk about Selenium IDE first, and then we'll move to Selenium WebDriver. All right. So here we are going to look into Selenium IDE first. So to install it, you just have to go on your browser, type Selenium IDE, hit enter, and it will list out. The IDE is more like a plugin to your browser. So you go here, if you see Selenium IDE, the Chrome recently transitioned from Manifest version 2 to Manifest version 3 for Chrome extension. So Selenium IDE for Chrome hasn't been updated to comply with Manifest 3, so that's why we are not able to add it to our browser here. Okay, but we can also try this on Firefox. So we have a Firefox browser here. You have to again go here and type Selenium IDE. All right, and hit enter. You just have to specify for Firefox. All right. Now, if you click here, I have already installed it, but by default, you will see an install button here. You can click on it and you can install it. Okay. Once you have it installed, it will be available as a plugin. So if you go to your plugins here and click on the Selenium IDE. Now, once you click on that, it opens up an interface, which is like this. Here, first thing you want to do is you want to create a new test. Okay, or you want to record a new test. So you'll click on record a new test in a new project. Your project name, let's say it as my test underscore Selenium IDE. Now what base URL you are going to hit, or what URL you are going to target. So I am just going to say I have my URL learnwithpsudo.com, and I'll say start recording. So it opens up the browser here. It says Selenium IDE is recording. Now whatever I'm trying to do, say I am here, I am clicking on this burger menu. I click on topics. I click on Selenium intro. I scroll down towards the end of the page, and I click to here, and then I say you close my recording. Now I want to stop the recording. So you will come back to your IDE and you'll click on the stop button. What do you want to name this as? I'll name it as basic navigations, and I'll say okay. Now to understand this, let me just maximize a bit. Okay, what I did. So the URL, the base URL, if you have to understand the IDE, this is the base URL that I targeted. This is the open command that Selenium gave. I then maximized the window. Then I click on the button, which was my burger menu. I clicked on the second item there. Then I clicked on a button saying navigate me to a page. And then I clicked on some CSS wrapper. So if you want to rerun this, how do you rerun it? So there's a play button here. Just click on this and this execution would start. Okay. So right now it happened very fast. If you want to control the execution speed, you can come here, click on this clock, and you can set it as slow, or let's keep it a medium speed, and then we'll rerun this. Let's run. So it came here. Now it clicked on the burger menu. It opened Selenium demo. It went to Selenium introduction and close. All right. Pretty simple. So it's more like a record and playback here. You don't have other controls here, but yes, if you want to enter some value somewhere, or let's record another script. Let's save this one. And I'll create a new test. I'll say test2. Test2 add. In this one, I'm again going to say record, and this has opened again. I'm going here, click on this topics. Now while you are recording, you can also say like right click Selenium IDE if you want to perform a mouse over action, or if you want to do some assert, whether it is a checked button or whether it is present or not. You can add those assert as well. You can also use verify here, and you can also use a wait command. Okay, so these are a property that it will wait for. Say if this button was ineditable earlier and now it becomes editable, so you have to wait until it becomes editable, and then you are going to click it. Now let's stop the test here and let's go to test2 and see what it did. If you see, this was another command that we passed, wait for element editable, and we said which button. So we said this is my button where you have to wait for. Okay, and then if you want to change the property, you can click on these and you can set a target on the page that this element should be visible or this element should be selectable. Okay, it will update the value accordingly. So this is a very basic IDE exploration, and we are not going to use this hereafter. This was just for a reference to understand, or if you want to make a very basic script that does a record and playback, you can come to IDE and achieve that. Having said that, we are going to move on to our scripting. And to do that, let's open our PyCharm. All right, so our PyCharm is up now. So what we want to do here is first install Selenium. So if you would have followed me earlier in my other videos, I would have shown you how to install Selenium in PyCharm using pip. Okay, so if you want to do a double check whether Selenium is installed or not, you have to come here and just search for Selenium. Now if you see, Selenium is already installed in my system, but if you want to install Selenium again, you have to come here and just say pip install and you'll say Selenium. So it will automatically download Selenium and install it for you, but I already have it installed, so it says requirement already satisfied, right? So moving on here, what we want to do next is to do a basic run on Selenium. Okay, let's create a file here. Okay, inside Python base, not inside Python basics. Let me create another package, or let's create a directory, and I'll say Selenium tests. And in my Selenium test, I'll say new, it's a Python file, and I'll say name it as first Selenium script. All right. Now, the very first statement that you are going to write is import Selenium and see whether it is installed or not. One way is to check in your terminal. The second way is to import Selenium and print Selenium dot underscore version. All right. Now let's run this. All right, so I have docked my window back, and if you see, it printed me the version of Selenium 4.32, which is the latest version as of now. All right. Now from here, I have imported Selenium. My file is ready now to run on browsers. Okay. Now what I want to do is, I just want to open a page. Let's keep it very simple. I just want to open a page. So what do I write? I'll first write from, because I don't want everything inside Selenium to be loaded in my script. I just want Webdriver. So I'll say from Selenium, import Webdriver. Now I have my Webdriver installed. Next thing I want to do is Webdriver is equals to webdriver.chrome. Okay, because I want to launch ChromeDriver or Chrome browser. Now I'll say driver. Hold on, let's name this as driver so that we don't get confused. Okay, I'll say driver dot get. Instead of this, I'm going to hit learn with Psudo.com. Now this will open my browser, and what I want to do after this is driver dot maximize my window, and then driver dot quit. It will close the browser. All right, let's run this. Now if you see here, it launched my browser and it closed it. Okay, so by default, Selenium will automatically close your browser after your execution. But say if you want to see something about after this, like what's happening in your browser. Yeah, so what are you going to? You are going to wait for some time. How do you add wait here? So there are multiple ways you can introduce it. So I'm going to use something called time. Okay, so I'll say time.sleep. I'll give a timer here in seconds. I'll say wait for 5 seconds. Okay. And to make this work, you have to import time as well. So I'll say import time. All right, let's run it again. So it opens the browser, navigates to the page, and it waits for 5 seconds. Okay, and then it closes the browser. All right, as simple as that. So this was the basics on how to install and get started with Selenium. In the next one, we are going to see a few more concepts here, how to interact with different web elements and how to perform multiple actions on your web applications. Okay, so I'll see you in the next one. Right, thanks for joining, guys. Bye bye.